So next up, we're going to look at choosing fonts for your branding. And similar to the mistake that I mentioned in terms of choosing too many colours, using too many fonts or actually too few fonts is not the best idea. And most of the time, small business owners choose too many fonts, or they're just not consistent with their use of fonts, especially on things like social media and website design if they've done that themselves. So if you're somebody that is tempted to go on Canva and you're choosing a different font every time you post something or every time you create something because it's really pretty and you like it and you've seen a new template, then your customer is not really going to see that consistent visual message that we're really trying to put across. So this lack of consistency often leads to social media accounts looking less professional and more like a personal account rather than a business account. And also when you're viewing a business website, if there's lots and lots of different fonts, and if each page has got different fonts used in it, again, sometimes it can just feel a little bit like it's all over the place, and it can sometimes look a bit amateurish. So there is a magic formula to choosing fonts, and it's to choose around three. So ideally what you want is three separate fonts for a heading, a subheading, and a body text font, okay? So these fonts will usually tie in with fonts from your actual logo. But sometimes that's not always necessary, or it's not always appropriate. But either way, the fonts that you use should be complementary to your logo and also complementary to each other. So just like we spoke about balancing and creating harmony with your color palette, you also need to balance and create harmony with your choice of fonts. So it's worth noting that your body text font is always something that should be really, really easy to read. So very simple, nothing unusual, because it's going to form the main body text in things like your websites, your web pages. The other fonts that you use in things like your headings and subheadings, you'll use these a little bit more sparingly. So you can afford to be a little bit more fancy with those. And again, those are the fonts that will often tie in with using the same fonts that are in your logo. The key to choosing great fonts for your branding, it's all about balance. And I'm going to show you some examples of different fonts for customers that I have created, and also give you some tips and tricks on how to mix and match these fonts for branding success. So I'm just going to share my screen with you just now. Okay. So there are three main types of font. So the first one is a script font. Okay, so this one is probably quite obvious. It kind of does what it says on the tin. So the idea of a script font is that it looks a little bit fancy. It looks like a script kind of text. It can look handwritten. It can look like calligraphy. But when you see a script font, it always has a very fancy element to it, lots of scrolls and, often lots of joined up text, etc. And lots of little sort of flourishes in the construction of the letters. Okay, so that's a script font. The second type of font is a serif font. Now, you may or may not have heard of this before, but a serif font is almost like a halfway house between a script font and a sans serif font, in the sense that it does still have some decorative elements to it. So if you look at this capital T, the T has little arms on the end. The H has little feet on the bottom of it. So does the I. The S has little ends on it. So these kind of decorative edges, often known as arms, are what kind of characterizes a serif font, okay? And the third type of font is a sans serif font. So this means a font that doesn't have any of these little arms and legs or any kind of flourishes to them. So this type of font is often very block-like, very modern, very minimalist. So you'll see that there are no flourishes, there are no embellishments. You know, everything is finished with a very clean edge. Now, you might have certain preferences, you know, which ones you prefer, but actually the winning combinations of fonts is to combine different versions of either all three or two out of these three different types of fonts, because they very much complement each other. And what you'll find is, say for example, this script font, it's quite heavy, it's quite ornate, there's lots going on, there's lots in that design detail. And if you paired that with this font, what you'll find is this font kind of balances out all of these flourishes because this one's so plain. And that's what you want to do, you want to balance out, but also you want to distinguish different areas of text. And again, if you use something that has a contrast in the look to it, you'll get that effect and it will actually be easier to read. So if you put 2 or 3 script fonts together, they're extremely difficult to read because your eye is drawn to all of them all at the same time. Whereas if you mix your fonts, then the eye is drawn to them in separate ways, and it also helps separate different lines of text, okay? I'm going to show you some examples of some logos that use different types of font, okay? So the first one here is Chris Lewis Jewelry Design, and this full logo actually uses all 3 types of fonts. So you'll see here that the main logo font is very scripty. It has that hand-drawn scroll pen effect to it. So this is the script font. And then here in Jewelry Design, this is a serif font. So you'll see that the edges of the letters have those little arms and legs that we spoke about. And then underneath, we're telling the customer exactly what this jewelry designer does and sells. And we've used a sans serif font for that. And you'll see that each of those 3 elements distinctively stand out from each other. They're not battling against each other. They work in harmony with each other, okay? This logo here for Lindsay Warren, again, this uses a script font for the main logo. And what you'll see as well is this actually is quite heavy script. You know, there's some weight in that font. And so we've paired it with a sans serif font here that is much lighter in weight as well. And also we've made this to be capitalized, you know, so the way that the 2 forms of text stand out from each other is very, very clear, but they don't interfere with each other, they balance each other out. Again, going down to this logo here, we've got a script text here and a sans serif font. Again, it's kind of balancing that out, and we've we've played about with things like the spacing in the holistic therapies font here, you know, so we've made it have bigger gaps than what it would usually type out at to fit the size of the and relax. So again, it works because it balances out against each other, and they don't, you know, neither of them draw your eye in more than the other. And then finally, we've got another example here, again, a script font paired with a sans serif font. So you can see that mixing and matching fonts works, and it actually works better than keeping similar types of fonts together. So why don't we have a little look at how else this might work out with just logo design. So this is my website, just a screenshot from my homepage. So you'll see my main logo is a serif font, so it has those little feet. It's also in italic, so it kind of has, although it's not officially a script font, it kind of has that almost a nod to that with it being italic. And also we've got the sort of sentence case here. Branding, graphics and social media is in a contrasting font. We've done that in a sans serif font, but we've also capitalized this. And we've kind of made this the size of the rest of the logo, so it balances itself out and it works together quite harmoniously. And then you'll see in the rest of the text, we've got the same sans serif font here, and we've actually got another one which is larger and a little bit more emphasized in terms of the size, etc., to pull out a quote here. And again, I'm just going to show you how 3 different fonts work together. So this is my contact page. Again, you'll see we've got this serif font, we've got a sans serif font, and then we've got another one, but this is more for body text, so where we're creating lots of information, etc. So all 3 of those work together well, but they don't detract from each other. Let's take a look at how some of this would work in social media. So I've just picked out a couple of examples of some clients' social media graphics that I've created for them. So this is for Adele Mitchell, Style Coach. You'll see here that we've actually got, this is almost like a typewriter font. So again, this is classed as a serif font. We've got a script in there, and then we've got a sans serif font there. Similar in here, we've got this typewriter serif font and a sans serif font in there. And we've mixed and matched this idea of, lowercase with uppercase. And again, it works well, it balances out. And then they're all very different from the text that's in Adele's main logo, but this style coach is echoed throughout other areas. So we've echoed this text in adelemitchell.co.uk. We've mirrored the Adele text in this your text here. So this is how it all sort of starts to fit together, and you'll also see, on some of these we've used the submark. We haven't used the full logo there. And then just finally, we've got some images here from Lindsay Warren, Handmade Business Coach. So you can see here where we've paired different types of fonts here. And also great to use that on things like quotes, where we have done here, where we can sort of make that text pop out onto the page. And the way that we've used Handmade Business Coach here, again, some of it echoes the text that's been used in Lindsay's main logo, and then we've got this sans serif font which kind of complements that. So hopefully that's given you some ideas about how you can utilize fonts and how they can be balanced, and also how working with a few different fonts is better than only working with one or trying to cram too many ideas in there. So let's take a look at how you're going to use some of your fonts. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to take you back over to Canva. So I've just created an untitled A4 document here. And if you look on the left-hand side here, there's a button here for text. Okay, so you've got add heading, add subheading, and add body text. Okay, so I'm going to go in and just click this, and we're going to move up, and we're just going to type in, this is a header text. Okay, next up I'm going to put in a subheader. This is a subheading. And this is body text. your website, etc. Okay. So I've already preloaded this with my the fonts that I use in my business, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do that later on down the line, but I'm just going to quickly show you some of this just now, okay? So if you click on the text there, you'll see up in the left-hand corner, there is the font name. So you can go through all of these fonts in Canva and play about with these and see which kind of fonts you like. So we can change these to, so many different ones. There are so many here. And you can play about with this, as long as you want, and just sort of find out what kind of text you like. And within these fonts, there are, very fancy fonts. There are some like script, handwritten fonts, that kind of thing. And just go around and play with some of this. Again, you can just change these about, see what's there, what you like, what you don't like, and play about with this and just explore what kind of fonts you think you might want to use, okay? So these are preloaded fonts that are available on Canva. Now, what is useful at this stage is if you refer back to your Pinterest board, you'll be able to look and see, okay, this is the type of fonts that I liked. That I like these script fonts. I liked quite ornate fonts. I liked fonts with all of these scrolls and tails on them, etc. So go into Canva and have a little look at that and just see which fonts you think are appropriate for you. If there's something a little bit more scripty in there, which matches what you've been searching for on your Pinterest board, and that's what your inspiration is for, okay? So remember, your header font might be something that you use on your logo. Your subheading font might be used for things like titles and areas on your website. And then your body text is going to want to be something really plain and simple and easy to read, which is going to be used on things like your website and leaflets and all of those types of things. Now, I want to show you a really great tool. Okay, so this is on my fonts, and the section is what the font. And what it is if you have an image of a particular font and you want to find out what that font is, then you can do this on this website. There are lots and lots of similar other websites, but I like this one. It's free and I feel like it's pretty reliable, okay? So you'll see in this box here, drop an image to identify fonts, or click here to upload an image. So I'm just going to upload this screenshot that I took earlier today of a font, okay? And it gives you these marker elements. So we've framed the text. We're going to press the arrow to say, yeah, go ahead. And then what it does is it actually brings up the font that it's identified to be, but it also brings up lots of other alternatives as well, okay? So I'm going to go back to Canva here. So when you're looking in the fonts in Canva, they don't have every single font in there, but if it's something that you specifically want, then you can buy a font and you can upload it to Canva. And again, if it's something that you're going to use in your branding, then fonts aren't very expensive. You can see most of them are like around under £20, okay? But it also gives you lots of other options as well. It gives you some options of fonts that are very similar. So let's say, for example, if it was this one that you wanted and you thought, actually, I wasn't really looking to spend £42 on a font, but this one looks really similar and it's only £6.40, then you might want to get that. But the fonts on Canva are free. But I just wanted to show you this tool to help identify fonts because I think it's a really, really useful thing. The other thing that I wanted to show you was this website, and it's called Font Pair. Now, we've spoken in depth now about, different fonts and what goes with what. This website kind of specializes in putting fonts together, so font pairs, okay? And you can just sort of scroll around and have a look at that. So you'll see here, we've got a sans serif with the sans. You can just click on that and it'll bring up lots of different ones. We've got a serif and a serif, so it gives you lots and lots of different ideas about how to pair fonts together. There are lots of things like popular fonts, so you can, again, if you've seen something specifically, you might want to have a look in these categories and see what they're pairing certain fonts with, etc. But it's just a really useful way of getting to know fonts and also exploring some of the different fonts there and looking at suggestions that work well together and harmonize with each other and create that balance.